All right, folks, we are live. Welcome, everybody. This is the beginning of Season 6, the official start of Virtual Design Master Season 6. After some discussions with my cohort here, Angelo Luciani, we may or may not actually be Season 7. We had a good chuckle over this one. We've had a fun ride. We want to get started today. This is Episode 1 of the webinar series designed to be educational. As you can see here, we're starting the hackathon series with Virtual Design Master. My name is Eric Wright. You may know me as @DiscoPosse on Twitter. You can always find me there. You can connect through LinkedIn as well if you'd like. Angelo, if you want to introduce yourself, and then we're going to get rolling and start it all off.
Thanks, Eric. It's great to be back. And yes, we are still unclear if it's Season 6 or 7, but either way. Yes, Angelo Luciani on Twitter, @Angelo Luciani, blogs @virtuwise.com.
Now, we're doing an interesting thing because we're actually streaming live to YouTube and we're running the registration on the webinar. So for folks that are watching live, we do encourage you to go to the main site and register. We'll share registration links as well through this. Helpful for us to give guidance. You can also go to the virtualdesignmaster.io site. You can sign up for the newsletter and keep in touch, especially as we work up to the big event this year. So with that, we're going to get started today. Now, Virtual Design Master, folks that are just becoming familiar or those who may know us, of course, we are the three folks that are responsible for Virtual Design Master, myself, Angelo, and Melissa. Melissa's our creative director. She was unable to join us today, but she's definitely behind the scenes driving some really creative ideas, especially, as you see, as we're going to talk about what VDM has been, you'll understand, what the value is and how this has come into play. So again, make sure you reach out. We love interacting with folks. Tag us, give us your sense on experiences you've had, especially if you want to go back and share some classic experiences. So Virtual Design Master is based on the idea of bringing community folks together in order to make sure that they can find something in themselves that they may not even realize they had. This is the ability to take folks that are doing active architecture or systems administration and being able to tell them, with guidance and with coaching and with a peer community that they can go one step further, maybe 5 steps further. And the flow has always been this idea of a 4-session series where we actually had judging along the way. First was design, right? How do you actually take business requirements and turn them into a functional design on paper? And then have it peer reviewed by experts from the community, folks who've really, really proven themselves out on the ground. Then taking that same design and being able to either cut it in half or remove portions of or build protection, right? This is sort of business continuity, disaster recovery. So the protect is really about beginning to think like resilience. This is a big change. Instead of just designing, you're designing and being designed for resilience. Then we would move on to the orchestration layer, which is automating and orchestrating as much of that possible. Really, really, we have to think about, in order to advance ourselves, we have to move towards this kind of a flow to get away from manual tasks. And again, we saw some incredible work through the course of the first 5 seasons of folks that took on new platforms they've never been familiar with and did some neat stuff. So I'm very proud to see how people have grown along the way. And then deploy. So take these ideas, take these crazy requirements, and in a very compressed time frame to deploy them. And this is how we think about when we go into this season. We're building an education portal. We're building a way that we can get folks to be better than they think they are, to think about, if I'm an ops person and I've never thought about joining in a hackathon or building something from scratch, I want to be able to enable you to find that in yourself, right? That's what Angelo and Melissa and I have always found, that it's in you. And so we're going to open that up. And this is where we talk about this series. Now, it's really, really important for us to go back and think about, if you've gone through the previous videos, you can go to the YouTube channel and you can see all of the previous episodes. You can go to GitHub and find all of the previous designs. So from Akmal, who was in season 1, Timothy Patterson in season 2, Stephen Villion in season 3, Katerina Wagnerova in season 4, and most recently, and freshly minted VCDX, Chris Porter, Upright Vinyl, who is our winner in season 5. And then we took last year to think about as this next approach was, can we move to education? We've got all these amazing minds that are involved in this community, and this was the goal. And now we're taking it one step further and bringing back the practical implementations as well as the education. And this is the hackathon. So a hackathon in practice is generally known as an event. They say it typically lasts several days. Don't worry, we're not going to commit your days, but you know what it is. It's a large number of people that meet and engage in collaborative computer programming. So here in season 6 with Virtual Design Master, we want to change the game. We want to redefine the hackathon and really, really bring a very inclusive, ops-focused and oriented hackathon experience. Because our feedback from the community was they liked the idea, but they were worried. They were concerned that they didn't have the skill set to walk into a hackathon. Like, oh, I don't program it or whatever. So I always joke, I said, if you don't know your foo from your bar, welcome to my team, because we're going to do this together. I'm not a coder, but I'm willing to go the mile that is needed to help you to get a little further. So Angelo, you know, hackathon experiences, what's your thought on your experience in industry hackathons and how you've seen this challenge of ops-oriented folks getting involved?
Yeah, it's great to see that there's sort of, you can look at it at 2 different points of view. Internal company hackathons, where sometimes some of the best products come out of, where folks from different parts of the organization get together and come up with ideas and build whether a product or something additional to something that exists happens. That's great. And then there's also industry type hackathons where for instance, a lot of medical innovations have come out of, where you get a lot of subject matter experts in that particular area and just imagine what's next, if you will. So it's really cool to see people get together, people who know each other, and sometimes people who don't know each other get together, get put into a room. And like you mentioned, Eric, could last several days. In our case, it won't, but always great to see how folks engage with one another and get and go sometimes from, I like to say, go from the familiar, sort of what you know, to the unfamiliar, and see where that takes you and stretches you. So it's really great to get involved in the hackathon.
And I think the advantage we have in company hackathons is you have a comfort of knowing who else is at the table with you. When we go to these community hackathons and event-based hackathons, sometimes there's that lack of comfort, and that's what we want to create. So in last year, I led a hackathon team, and I say led a hackathon team, meaning I created a table opportunity for people to sit down. I walked through a design that I was hoping to aim to complete, and folks came. They participated in so many different ways, and even just as observers, I wanted them there, right? So it's really important. The other thing too is the leading a hackathon and setting it up is challenging. There's a lot of infrastructure, a lot of sort of lifting in advance to make sure. So, you know, we want to do that for you. And I also, I see it's staring down me. I got to give a shout out. This is our friends at Packet.net, who actually have been our hosting provider for the last 2 years. With Virtual Design Master. There's really a sea of folks that have helped to support Virtual Design Master. And, you know, there's going to be new sponsors this year. If you're a sponsor or if you're interested in sponsoring, definitely reach out. You can connect with me. It's eric@discoposse.com. Of course, you can catch us. We'll share out a registration form for sponsors, because that's usually the best way that people have been involved. So I do want to shout out again, Packet, also a great example of folks that run hackathons and develop features. So yeah, super cool. And taking feedback and understanding the things you do may open up doors for, you know, a platform you're building on to build new features, which is very, very cool. Yeah. So this is the flow for this season. We're going to start today. Today is the idea. How do I have an idea that's going to be valid and viable for a hackathon experience? Really, this is a startup kind of idea, but we're going to scale it down and show you how to do the same thing. But these are startup fundamentals. And, you know, luckily, having lived experiences in a startup environment, we can see it proven out. And we've done the same thing, both Angelo and I, in hackathons as well. The second episode is about building the team. Then we're going to teach you about how to do product management in a hackathon environment. It's a very challenging thing, different from day-to-day product management. And then how to get ready. What are the logistics of the event? Doing test pitches, and then it's going to lead ultimately to the live event. So here's the dates of the ones that are in. Today, you're in the idea. You're in the midst of that experience. If you're watching this on demand, of course, keep your eyes out based on the dates that are here. You may be able to see the rest on demand. These will always be continuously available. We encourage feedback. So, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. Give comments. We love feedback. It's important for us to make sure we are doing things that are leading you. Angelo, we got a fun month ahead. We got a fun couple months ahead when we talk about the hackathon and event season as we know it. Well, what do you think about, what this is going to mean to folks?
Yeah, so I like this. I like to look at it. This is sort of where we're planting the seeds, getting folks interested and involved in hackathons. And I'm really looking forward to the harvest, which might be 2, 3, 4 months out at event hackathons, where folks actually say, hey, yeah, you know what? I want to participate in one. Hey, I want to get involved. And I want to see that harvest and get that feedback from folks on how they participated, what their experience was like, and how it changed them. So really looking forward to that.
And this is the goal, right? It's not just this event, but every event going forward. So Team Virtual Design Master will be representing at VMworld, at Microsoft Ignite, and at AWS reInvent. So we will have at least one team representing, and hopefully from the folks that participate, we'll have even more. So we want, again, take the experience from here in this very known and comfortable community to even beyond. We're gonna give you the ability to find something in yourself and in your team that you can do. Now, every hackathon and every community event has to have some very strong foundations. We call it the code of conduct. It's ultimately play by the rules, right? What's the goal of everything? Number one is be good people, help each other. As many folks have call on the quote, a rising tide lifts all boats. So we're here to do that for you. We want to create the most inclusive possible community we can. Our focus in this one has really been getting ops folks to be comfortable in development teams. So we're going to bring developers in to help to coach us as well. But really, inclusivity goes far beyond that. We understand that the technology community is challenged as a rule on general inclusivity. So we at Virtual Design Master want to focus that's not acceptable here. We are all inclusive. We welcome all folks to be involved and to respect and observe that amongst the people that they welcome into this community. I'm super proud. Can't say much more than I'm humbled by what we've been able to do up to this point. Angelo, anything you want to add on there?
I think you said it all, but Eric, the only thing I would share is just the diversity in people that we get from different backgrounds, from different technology stacks, if you will. Everybody brings something to the table and ultimately complements each other. And we've seen that play out through the competition. And I'm sure we'll see it play out, especially in the hackathon.
We could truly say diversity comes in many forms, and it makes us all better to see and participate in a diverse community. And with that, we're going to get started. This is the idea. So every hackathon, everything you do, every product you generate, every startup that begins with an idea. Now, I've been able to be a part of this and going to share some things that have proven out to be useful for myself and my teams. And definitely, Angelo is going to join us in sharing, what it means. So thinking specifically on a hackathon, right? What do I do when I want to come up with an idea for a hackathon? Number one, plan, right? So you've got to, in advance, hackathons don't begin the moment that you hit go. Hackathons usually you have warning time, so we can ideate, we can come up with some thoughts and look to the market for what's appropriate. So we want to plan. What's the actual problem you're trying to solve? And you're going to see that theme come out very strongly. Number two, dream big. Don't think about completing. Think about what you can do and you want to do. Then scale accordingly. So dream big means think of this big idea. I want to achieve something, create a full self-service portal where I can do 20 different things that I do on a day-to-day basis. Perfect. Now, MVP, minimum viable product. What can you do in 24 hours? And that's where we work, right? So start with the idea. Think about the platform or as a product, and then begin to scale and plan. So look ahead, not just to the outcome of the hackathon itself, but maybe even beyond. Am I building something that I'm going to use at work and go beyond, or just in the community? Think bigger. Don't just think about that 24 hours. It's going to be an important 24 hours of your life, but you can think far beyond it, because you may not even complete what your goal was. What you will do, though, is you'll inspire a group of people to join you in that experience and probably continue. So it's important. And then build trust. You're going to latch on to an incredible, diverse community of people with different skills, different capabilities, different ideas. So lean on your peers, the mentors you've got amongst your community, us included, all the judges from the past who are going to help us to be involved as well. So look to those folks to get advice and to achieve your goal. And this is beyond here. This is in every day. A mentoring community is incredibly powerful, and even in small ways. It doesn't need to be a full official mentoring experience. It is important. And when we talk about the idea being a challenge, so a good friend of mine, Irfan Ahmed, he's the co-founder of Cloud Physics, now founder of a company called Magnition. And he's been a longtime friend of our community, Angelo and I as well personally. They was at the VMUG, the Toronto VMUG, the day his company came out of stealth, but took the time to come and give a talk about a really interesting challenge in the industry, and then had to literally run off and do press releases and press calls. So that's the embodiment of community commitment, that he was willing to fly and get that done, even though it was cutting into an important day for him. And Irfan always taught me this idea that don't come to me with a product. Don't come to me with a company name. Don't come to me with whatever. He says, come to me with a challenge. And then let's figure out how we can solve it and what we can do to create a product around that. So the same startup fundamentals apply to your hackathon. Find a challenge. It could be simple, right? I deploy 20 virtual machines a day, and it really bothers me that I got to go out and run a script. Like, maybe I want to do it, pool them all together. I want to set up a lab environment, but I'm tired of doing it manually. Little things like that. That's your challenge. Now, the next thing is, how do you solve it, right? Do you mitigate or completely solve? Whatever you can do to work towards that goal of creating a product around it or creating a process around it. What can you do to do that? And then how do you build it? Especially when you can now lean on your peers. You may be, hey, I want to use Ansible for something, but I've only barely used it. Imagine you can probably seek out somebody who can help you, who's probably got the same problem you've got. And that really will be important. We'll talk about that in the next slide. So Angelo, the challenge, right? Like what's your view on coming up with that idea, and what have you found to be successful in your own experience of before you begin, what's the right idea approach?
Yeah, and I think we touched on it in the previous slide, but really think big, act small, have that grandiose idea, that huge challenge you want to tackle, but just tackle it, start small and chip away at little pieces of it until you start building up to that big challenge. That's how you stay motivated. You get to early successes, and you'll finally overcome that large challenge that you're looking to deal with.
Absolutely. Now, as you do your initial ideation, you've come up with an idea, and this is sort of an industry standard or a life standard. We call it a SWOT analysis. So strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So take that idea, and a lot of times my own personal way is, I've been taught by a few folks, we call it so what, and it happens to work out. It looks like SOWT, so what, but really what it is literally, so what? I've got an idea. Someone says, and this is how I'm going to solve it. So what? Like, does it actually make someone's life better? Does it make a day better? Does it make a process better? So for this, think about the strengths. What does your hackathon idea bring to the world and to the market, to a team, to an individual, whatever your effect is? Opportunities. Who is this? In startup land, we call this total addressable market, right? Who is your target market for this? And those are the folks that are going to use this and get value out of it. Every startup founder that I've ever spoken with generally has the same story they tell. I had a problem that I needed to solve, so I chose to build a platform in order to solve it. And in doing so, when I shared it out, I found a lot of other people had the same problem. And a business was born, right? Now, it's not all unicorns and rainbows. Weaknesses, right? You have to look for, what is it that won't be solved by this? Are there other things that, are still going to be challenging with it? Does it really fit into something? Am I creating a new problem, right? The old joke about regex. I solved a problem with regex. Now I have two problems. So this is where you have to think critically about things, and it's tough to do about ourselves sometimes. And then also threats, kind of more of a market approach, but really, is the thing you're doing already out there? Or is there another company or whatever that's doing it? At a hackathon environment, you may literally be sitting at a table where the table beside you has got the same idea as you. And that's all good. You can actually do it. In fact, you find you may have divergent ways to approach the problem. So, as we get into these environments, think about it, but don't let it stop you. None of these things should stop you. It's very important. Angelo, critical thinking, right? Virtual Design Master, no one told us it was a good idea. And here we are in season.
Right. Yeah. No, you're right. It's pretty crazy, but you're right.
So I'm going to walk through a couple of examples, and we'll share what has been helpful and has worked out in previous situations, and just some that are just fun. And we want to look for the weaknesses, right? We want to look for a good idea and where it may not be a good idea. So here's an example. I actually brought this to the VMworld Hackathon last year. I wanted to create a web application to be able to do controlling of VMs. So just power them on, power them off. But the customer community, the client community, which was a development team and some sales engineers, I didn't want them going into vCenter to do it. So I said, can I just create a simple web portal where they can reserve a system and then turn it on, and then it'll turn off when the reservation finishes. And just as a joke for this one, I called it Unified Pane of Glass, UPOG, because we all fight for the ever-changing hope of single panes of glass, but there's thousands of them. So I had a very specific problem to solve. I chose to build it myself, and I realized maybe somebody else can help me to think about this. And I did. I had people that were helping build Power CLI scripts, or building web front ends, getting graphics, doing things, building the pitch, doing the marketing. Remember, your hackathon idea is not just a product. You have to build your presentation, tell the story, being able to present the results, build an idea into something amazing that someone wants to consume. You can't just go up to a microphone and say, I want to build a web platform, and then just stare into the crowd. Like they'll say, okay, great, but like you want to excite them about it. So you're going to bring marketing people, you're going to bring graphic design people into this. So this is why it was important. It was a very diverse crowd that I brought to that table, and the product actually got created, and I use it day to day inside my work environment. Another good example here, right? So say I want to go and I want to try out using Alexa or Google Assistant, some kind of a voice search, right? Can I run, say, a Power CLI script or some other kind of web-based script? Really good opportunity, right? What's the challenge I'm solving? I want to use voice in order to do something so that I can, save on interacting through a keyboard. And so that's my challenge. My challenge is I need to give access to voice to an activity. We have technology that can do it, and it's going to require a lot of fun lifting, but we've seen people do it. Angelo, voice. Here's a great example, right? Is it a viable large business? No, but it's a good project. Thoughts on that?
Yeah. Is this a component to something bigger? I'm starting to see a lot more and more folks leverage voice. I've seen it talked about in community sites as well. You search in Google, using voice, leverages voice has, I've heard, could in the future rank those items higher in Google if they're more friendly to voice searching. Not sure what the makeup of that is, but that's what I'm hearing. But yeah, that could be a component to something bigger that you want to leverage. And I think the key here too is just, it might be just understanding APIs, the bigger story around APIs and how to leverage APIs versus the voice technology, if you will. But yeah, great example.
And your goal may be as simple as, I want to learn how to do this and I need help doing it. And I want to do it in a public event where it kind of urges me to do it. It's like signing up for a 5K run when you've never done one before. Yeah, it's a good way to kind of force your hand to get involved. So, hey, and just let's test to see if anybody's got these on. I always love to do this. Hey, Google, open up Chrome and go to virtualdesignmaster.io. So if anybody's got one of those open, they may get a browser. And hey, Alexa, order a coffee maker and send it to Angelo Luciani. No, I'm just kidding. We've got a lot of fun we can have with it. So think about the goal for you, maybe your own personal, gain in understanding how to use APIs. Here's another good example, right? Create a chargeback application, a simple database application, maybe built on a LAMP stack or built on something very simple. Use PHP, use WordPress, use Excel, whatever it is, and have it interact with your live cloud or virtual infrastructure so that you can say, as a machine comes online, I can query, and then I can create a record in order to say that, Angelo owns this machine, and then I can charge him back based on that. Or, Melissa just spun up 22 machines in AWS. Let's make sure that we keep track of those and when they were created. There's lots of neat ways you can do this. What's the challenge? Being able to keep inventory or create chargeback fundamentals so that you can work with a CMDB or some kind of service desk. And you may not have access to a full service desk, but you can do this yourself, right? It's a very, very simple thing. And again, I've built these in production and found them to be, I thought it was my thing that I used. And then all of a sudden it became a production application that had a 4 nines uptime requirement. So, it's fun, and be careful. You may be building something that's bigger than you. Another good example was, say we want to do some data movement, right? Understand how to interact with log data. Whether you're using an existing environment, maybe you want to try something new just to see how it works. You've heard about this thing called ELK, so Elasticsearch, Logstash, Kibana. So maybe I want to take a bunch of different sources, export them, and bring them over. I want to learn Python or Ruby or Java to do so, right? So, again, what is the challenge I'm solving? For my personal challenge, it may be learning Python to interact with log data. The real challenge is being able to take data and centralize it into one view to be able to visualize as a time series graph. Very important. And I would bet that you've got a need to do so, even if every once in a while, to correlate and say, hey, we had a performance problem or we had a system went down. Let's go and find out what happened right before. Sounds compelling. Now, this is a fun one. And I was literally like, this is a hey, why not, right? What if I want to build Kubernetes running on a Raspberry Pi, hang it from a drone, fly it around a room, and then deploy a couple of Helm charts to it and deploy an application? It's just for fun. This is a great hackathon idea. It sounds like it's just for fun, but think about a second. What are we actually doing? We're figuring out how to orchestrate, or do an automated build of Kubernetes on ARM. And doing so in that environment, you have to do it by Wi-Fi because you need to be able to deploy while it's flying around the room. So it may not seem like a business critical thing. I'm going to go back a great reference that I had. So I was at the recent Nutanix conference, and the one of the keynotes was deploying AHV fully automated to an Intel NUC, hanging from a drone while David Blaine was underwater. And the goal was that until it brought up the live prompt, David could not come out of the water tank. It's dramatic, it's crazy, it's fun. is that really a life thing that you're going to do? I don't recommend having people in water tanks while you do live deployments of infrastructure. But again, take the fun factor, shave that off, and think about, wow, what did they do? They learned how to deploy a fully automated scriptability HV. They learned how to do it on Intel NUC. They learned how to do it fast so that they could then get on to the next thing. What's the ultimate goal? To get to the point of being able to build applications, right? Get rid of infrastructure as the barrier. So bingo, I love it. Angelo, obviously that's a personal experience you knew well, and you've seen hackathons play out in your own company and other companies as well, and the value they bring.
Yeah, and just to add one other bullet point to what you mentioned there, Eric, it was also memorable seeing, right? It was so. And we don't recommend having water in your data center, obviously, but great exercise, and it was nice to see it get done. And David come out of the water.
That's right, and a big shout out to D, who's on live right now, and brought up in the chat. He says, highlights a risk. It could be swatted. So think about that, right? Like, it could be any small thing that you do. It could be as simple as like building a vRealize automation process to do something, deploy a machine and send one to the cloud, one to VM. Doing a cloud formation template to be able to build a 3-tier architecture. It could be a hello world. It doesn't need to be that. It just needs to be your personal goal and bring it to the crowd. And I would bet. Also, don't worry about what the rest of the tables are doing. This is not their event. This is your event. Wherever you are, it's your event, right? So that's an important thing. Another thing that we want to take the fear out of, I'm not going to bring a worthy product. I can tell you that at a recent work hackathon, I came up with an idea, and somebody else in the community, at work, had a similar idea. It was literally just to build a mobile version of something. We were told through and through, whatever you do, don't suggest building a mobile app. You'll get shouted down by every engineer. No one wants this. It does not have a valid use case. We ended up actually winning a cash prize because it turned out to be a very viable thing once they saw it in action. So you have an opportunity to do the same thing. Don't presuppose that it's not going to be a viable thing, because it may be before you realize it.
Yeah, it's important not to put limitations on your idea or your team or yourself. So good point.
Now, Angelo, prioritizing as you walk into a hackathon, going into anything, right? Building your MVP, I talk about it as like 1, 2, 3 prioritization. What are the key things I can do to get a minimum viable product? And that could even be a demo. It could even be partly driven by PowerPoint, or a web page with screenshots instead of applications. You don't necessarily need to build a fully functional working product, but you want to show the flow. In everything we do, how important is a screenshot or a flow or just an understanding of what's next? Like you've seen this play out in our community, right? This is the idea has to be shown. You can visualize it. It makes it much better. Am I right? Yeah, no, it's important people need to understand where they're going. So it's important you might not have all the directions or all the signposts up, but at least have something that people can kind of poke and nudge, etc. And again, remember that the hackathon and the actual live event may end after 24 hours, but the product life cycle will not. So you've got a chance to keep going, and having that visualization may inspire you and your team and others to join in and keep going on it. Mm-hmm. So what are the second tier features, right? Think about this as you look at the overall feature set. You've got a very tight scope. So make sure you're very, very careful about what you bite off. Like say, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And you can only fit so many bites in a hackathon time frame. So make sure that you think about what's next if I do get time, and be very, very pragmatic. Like we call it ruthless pragmatism around assigning what you can get done. And then, of course, priority 3, we'll call it the back burner. This is big picture stuff that won't make it in the first draft unless you've got a wild amount of time, which I can assure you, you won't. but it's all good. Again, thinking beyond the hackathon is an important part of it. And the big thing for us, we talk about, I call on, one of the most famous things is a book called Start With Why. Simon Sinek is a phenomenal author, has given advisory and guidance to a lot of organizations, as a great read, highly recommended, especially when you're thinking about what's an idea that I can bring to it, not just in the idea, coming up with the idea, what are you actually getting done with that idea? It's not, he just uses the idea of describing what Apple does. And he has a beautiful sort of target scenario. He says, Apple doesn't go and they say, we build all these amazing computers that have a common user interface and an elegant design, so we can sell them at a high margin. And in order to do that, we then allow people to have a common experience. That's not starting with why. That's starting with what. So reverse it. Start with why. We believe that fundamentally everybody should have an amazing experience when using computing technology. It should be automatic. It should be innate. We created a user experience in order to do that across every platform. It's the one in your pocket. It's the one on your desk. It's the one in the cloud. And doing so, we're able to, you can see the difference in the way you approach it. So think about your why. I want to use an application to enable people to do more things faster with consistency to achieve a bigger or specific goal. That's a why. My unified pane of glass was, I want a team of people who shouldn't have to care about what's running underneath the infrastructure to simply be able to click a button and say, I need this instance and I'm going to reserve it for a day. That's my why, because I want to save them time. I don't want to teach them how to use other things. Give them a new way to do it. I do so by, building an application based on Ruby on Rails that interacts with PowerCLI back to a VMware virtual infrastructure. So that's the what. Don't start with the what. Think about the why. And don't be discouraged by, I call it the bigness of a why statement. It may sound bold. It may sound, almost like a Jobsian marketing where you're like walking around on stage with a black turtleneck going, we're very proud to bring you something amazing. Hey, they may not all seem amazing, but if you use it and you can affect somebody's day, that's amazing, right? That is something that they didn't have in front of their face, the day before. Angelo, starting with why, and a lot of things we do in the community. I really want you to talk about this one.
Yeah, I really love this piece you have down here. Don't be discouraged by the bigness of your why. I mean, if you're gonna begin a project, you really need to get yourself inspired and also inspire others. And why would you just have sort of a really small walnut type goal or why? You really want to think big, and that will really push you during those times when you might be struggling with your idea, struggling with a concept. Keeping that why, that big why out front, that's really the fuel that will push you through to the end goal for sure.
Now, another thing I want to highlight here is that we've talked about coming up with the idea, and you may be looking at this saying, Eric, Angelo, Melissa, anyone in the community, look, I've seen you folks do this, but it's not me. I just want to learn. That's your why. You want to walk into an experience where you can help a community of people, help a team, be a part of it, be an observer. Observers are the most important people there. They have critical thinking because they're watching this going, I'm not quite sure what you're doing, but I got a question for you. And in fact, it's some of the most powerful advice you can get when you're in the midst of that experience, right? Because they may say, as a user of this stuff, I would use it a different way. And it gives you a chance to really think about that as a team. And we'll talk about that in the second episode, which is building the team, bringing diversity of skills and capabilities to really create a complementary set of folks who are going to do something together, who may not have ever worked together in the past. The people on my hackathon team last year, only 2 people had ever met in the past. 2 had, and another one one of them I'd never actually met in person. So it was amazing, right? To be able to meet somebody for the first time in real life, build something together, and just have fun. So this is really what you're building. So if you're looking at this thinking, I don't have an idea, then go to the hackathon site. When you see, well, we'll put up the registration shortly. And what you're going to do is you can go and say, look at other ideas. What do I think I can contribute to? And they're going to say that it's written in the stack or it's in the platform or whatever. You may say, perfect. If you don't have any skills, there's going to be an anyone bucket, right? I'm great at PowerPoint. I'm good at public speaking. Even better, I just want to watch.
Yeah.
Welcome. You're always welcome. Again, diversity of experience is as important. And being an observer is one of the best things you can do. Because when you go to a live hackathon, it's sometimes challenging to sit there for like 6-8 hours while other people are doing stuff and you may not be able to kind of sit in. Our goal here is to make it so you can literally experience it live, and it'll be in video snippets for the rest of time, hanging off of YouTube as well, which is pretty wild.
Yeah.
So let's think about what it is that when you go back to the fundamentals of what is your idea, what is the challenge that you have that you believe you can solve? And you may not even know that you can solve it, but you've got to believe it's solvable. Who else in my community, in the world, in my team, and somewhere shares this challenge? I'm not alone, right? Maybe if you've got something, you're like, I need to be able to take a specific mug and be able to fill to particular heights that I can, turn into a hummingbird feeder. Maybe not a shared challenge. However, most stuff in computing is a shared experience, whether you know it or not. And then can this challenge be solved by some kind of a process or an application, or using other applications already out there, but maybe bringing them together, working with an API, and that could be it, right? Doing something I do today through a GUI, but doing it through an API. Sounds like a hackathon idea to me, right? So, because somebody may say, I love that idea. What if we take it even further? And that's what we do. We're going to do this together as a community. We're going to take everyone further. So again, remember, don't doubt that you can do this. You know more than you realize in solving these challenges, even just to come up with ideas, to sit and think about it. This is a chance. Just like with architecture, you may not have had a chance to be at the table when coming up with a global architecture for your company, but you may have had ideas. You're at the table here. Programming and scripting are not my bag, you're going to say. Not a problem. All right, can you build PowerPoint presentations? Are you good at documentation? Are you good at graphics? Can you build a logo? Make it fun. Everything about this is important. Documentation is probably the most important thing. If you can come up with your own wiki, your own README page on how to use the product, even if it doesn't work, even if it's just a PowerPoint view of what it should be, but you build documentation, you're actually further than most people will be in a hackathon. And ultimately, like a peloton in cycling, we move faster as a group when we collaborate together. So this is our chance to do this. And it's always been, again, the goal of everything we do in this community. Angelo, as a group, we've done things that neither of the three of us, that run this event would have thought each of us could have done alone. And we do it together. Mm-hmm. So, again, what's the value of collaboration in your experience?
Yeah, one of the cool things about this, and maybe folks haven't thought this far, it might be too early, but projects that you're working on, you may decide to open source them, put them on GitHub or other platforms. That way other folks can contribute to the project that you've started. And that's another way of collaboration, and I like to think acceleration of that project. Let's say you've developed something that needs X, Y, and Z technology, and you just don't have those connections. Leveraging, making a project open source might get more eyes on your project and help accelerate its development. So that's a nice way of collaborating with a larger community.
And we're going to give you access. We're going to have people that are there to help with like code committing and doing stuff like that. Again, it doesn't need to be, it's a lot of stuff is going to be new to people. So we're very excited that we've got people that are willing to give time to help, guide and nurture the entire experience. So as you walk out of here and we head in, so we've got actually next week is a bye week because it's holidays across North America. So it is going to be Canada Day on Monday, and it's also going to be Independence Day on Thursday in the United States. So you've got a week to think of an idea. And then as we go into building the team in 2 weeks, then you can think about, as I'm ready to figure out how to build a team, what's the idea? So think about this, write it down. It's a good thing to do. What's your MVP look like as you think about this idea? Can I develop it in 24 hours? And remember, you got some lead up, you can do some research. And really, where do you want to go? What's the bigger idea that you've got? And you've got a chance to really, be a part of this. Here's the links for the future episodes that are going to occur. Again, sorry, I should have put the dates on each of them, but you'll see the dates that are actually on the virtualdesignmaster.io. If you click on the season 6 link, it's got all the dates there. Each of these is a Zoom registration, so you'll be get in touch through email. So I encourage people, make sure you register for all of them. Look at that. Ignore the fact that they all have the same link. My bad. It just changed the E to E3 and E4 for the bottom ones. This is the proof that sometimes you move fast and break things, as they say, right? So VDM S6 E3 and VDM S6 E4. Go to virtualdesignmaster.io. The live links are there, and you'll be able to see all of them. So that, again, big thanks to everybody who's continuing to do this stuff. We're super excited. And, we can see people are interacting through the chat. I love D. It's a great point. It says, you'll come as an observer and you'll leave as a participant. And the goal, again, build the experience here and then take the experience next to the next big thing. So that'll be VMworld is the next, event opportunity, and we'll be building a Virtual Design Master team. So you can already think, maybe there's some folks that I can do this with going into there, and we'll make sure that we set folks up for that. So with that, Angelo, I know there's a lot, people have a lot to think about, a lot of ideas. Good holiday week ahead. What are your thoughts as we go into the next piece?
I wanted to leave folks with, wanted to remind folks, to sign up for the newsletter. So folks watching, please sign up for the newsletter. We're going to have commentary, a little bit behind the scenes, topics, some tips, links to different resources we find on the web. So I think you'll like the newsletter. So consider subscribing.
Absolutely. Yeah. So just go to virtualdesignmaster.io. You'll get the pop-up there to subscribe to the newsletter. And it's something that's a big thanks to Angelo, who's the lead on that, generates the content for us. And we're very proud. If you've got feedback you have for us in the community, of course, anybody, do a reply back, let us know. And we're excited to always be able to share this experience with everybody. So with that, I think we're going to close up for today, get folks back. Thank you very much for those folks who registered. Again, it's important for us to, we've got a really great crowd. Looking forward to seeing all of you and more in season 6, episode 2, which is happening 2 weeks from this date at the live event. So we will see you all there. I guess it's July 11th, I believe is the next date. Yeah, the 11th, then the 18th, then the 25th in July are the next 3 events. So we'll see you there. Angelo, before we go, any last encouragement and shout outs?
Yeah, I only encourage folks to relax next week, enjoy the holidays, because as we ramp up, it's going to get busy for you. So
it will. And you'll hear more by the next session. We'll have the live event dates committed, and everybody will get to hear exactly what it's all about. And with that, have a great holiday, folks. Have a great day, and thank you very much for continuing to participate and drive this community. Again, my name is Eric Wright. Angelo, of course, he's at Angelo Luciani. You can reach Melissa. She's at VMIS33. I'm at Disco Posse. We are the Virtual Design Master Creative Team, and we'll see you all in the next episode.